From the very beginning, the American project was not just about independence from Britain. It was about a philosophical revolution, a complete rejection of the idea that legitimacy comes from hierarchy, birthright, or divine authority. The Declaration of Independence made it plain that governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. That principle is the beating heart of the Enlightenment, and it was the foundation of the republic the founders built. But from the moment those words were written, there has been a countercurrent in American life, forces determined to keep power concentrated in the hands of a few and to limit who counts as the governed. Those forces have taken different names and worn different uniforms over the centuries, but their role has constantly been opposing the expansion of liberty to all. In the Revolutionary era, conservatives were the Loyalists, those who insisted that self-government was dangerous, that the colonies should remain under the protective rule of the British Crown. They were not defending freedom. They were defending the security of a hierarchy where the king reigned by divine sanction, and ordinary people knew their place. The revolution wasn't just a rebellion against taxes or distant bureaucracy. It was a direct assault on the idea that any man could rule others by birthright. The Loyalists understood that, which is why they fought against it. When the next great test of the Republic came in the 1860s, the conservative bloc had simply changed its banner. They were the Confederates now, fighting not for monarchy, but for the preservation of chattel slavery, the most naked denial of Enlightenment principles imaginable. They wrapped their cause in the talk of states' rights, but the right they fought to defend was the right to own human beings. In practice, the Confederacy was a feudal aristocracy of the plantation elite, every bit as committed to hierarchy and inherited power as the monarchists before them. And just as in the Revolution, the struggle was not merely military, it was ideological. Could the American project survive if half the nation rejected its first principle that all are created equal? The Civil War answered that question in blood. But the reactionary impulse did not die at Appomattox. It reemerged in the Jim Crow South, in the segregationist courthouse, in the mob enforcing the racial order with terror. These conservatives fought to nullify the 14th and 15th Amendments, just as their forebears had fought to nullify the Declaration's promise. They understood that genuine equality would dissolve the power that kept them in the system that kept them in power. So they cloaked their opposition in claims of tradition and local control. The same rhetorical frame the Loyalists and Confederates had used to adjust it to fit a new era. By the mid-20th century, the civil rights movement exposed that same pattern yet again. Every time the boundaries of liberty were about to widen, conservatives stood on the other side, warning that too much freedom too quickly would lead to chaos. They said it when abolition threatened slavery. They said it when women demanded the vote. They said it when Black Americans demanded desegregation. And each time what they meant was that liberty for others felt like a loss of control for them. Today, that same reactionary tradition has taken on a new form. The Technofeudalists. This is the modern oligarchy, billionaires and corporate empires whose power rests not on inherited titles, but on control of the economy, the media, and the political process. They may not wear redcoats or ride with the cavalry, but their project is the same: to concentrate power upward, limit democracy to a facade, and ensure that sovereignty in practice belongs to an elite. They fund movements to fuse church and state, to strip voting rights, to undermine labor, and to normalize a politics where citizens are treated as subjects again. This time, not of a king, but of a marketplace controlled by a few hands. Seen from an Enlightenment socialist perspective, this is not a series of disconnected episodes. It's a continuous line of opposition to the very idea of universal sovereignty. The Loyalists, the Confederates, the segregationists, and today's oligarchs all share a core belief that some people are inherently more fit to rule than others. The specifics of who those people are have changed. The aristocrats, the slaveholders, segregationists, CEOs. But the principle is constant. They stand against the expansion of rights, against the decentralization of power, against the idea that every person has equal standing in the political order. The American project has always been unfinished. Each generation has been called to decide whether it will broaden the circle of liberty or narrow it. And in every generation, conservatives have been the force arguing to keep that circle as small as possible. They frame themselves as defenders of tradition, but the tradition they defend is the tradition of exclusion, the tradition of rule by the few over the many. They call themselves patriots, but their loyalty has always been conditional. They will stand with the republic only so long as it serves their control. That is why their opposition is not just political, but existential. You cannot believe in the Enlightenment's promise that all political power is derived from the people, and also believe that power should be reserved for a select class. You cannot claim to defend the Constitution while dismantling the principles it was built to protect. The conservative tradition in America has been, from the start, an attempt to domesticate the revolution, to tame its radical promise into something safe for hierarchy. The stakes today are the same as they were in 1776, in 1861, in 1964. Will sovereignty belong to the people as a whole, or will it be claimed by a narrow elite who rule in their own interest? The Loyalists lost that argument in the Revolution. The Confederates lost it in the Civil War. The segregationists lost it in the Civil Rights era. But the Technofeudalists are betting that this time will be different, that wealth and technology can achieve what muskets and bayonets could not. Whether they succeed depends on whether we see the pattern for what it is. These are not isolated battles over taxes, tariffs, or policy. They are episodes in a single ongoing conflict over the meaning of the American project itself. If we forget that, if we treat each fight as separate and unconnected, we will keep facing the same enemy under new names. If we remember it, we can defend the revolution not as a museum piece, but as a living, unfinished work, one that belongs to all of us, and that no king, no plantation master, no segregationist, and no billionaire has the right to claim as theirs alone.